Hi, guys, and good morning. Geez, this is really, 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 really sad. She had been complaining recently of back pain in the past year. Uh, we're assuming overdose, cause of death pending autopsy as we speak, but you got to assume overdose. There's a guy named Micah Lee or Micah Brown, one of the two, but he lives in the complex and he was a witness to this. And here he is on the local TV station. Let's take a listen.
Everybody's like here and talking about it this morning, so it's definitely surreal that it was right down the hall. Yeah. I think it's crazy, especially, like you said, someone so well known. Yeah. It was yesterday afternoon, and just a bunch of commotion in the hallway. The halls are pretty hollow, so noise echoes throughout. And I had just heard about someone collapsing. And then afterwards, there was talk about cardiac arrest. I can't confirm any of that. That's just what I've heard. Just lots of commotion. Just busy. My deepest condolences. That is so unfortunate to hear. So young at 36 years old, and so accomplished. That she really was incredible.
Look at that. What a sweet guy. He's going on to give a statement. But yeah, he heard commotion. Look, it's no secret that she had a very rough relationship with this guy, Brian Hickerson. They've been dating since 2018, on and off, but there was, domestic violence between the two of them. This guy he had a restraining order against him. I think, in 2022, there was that unbelievably terrible bar fight that they were in. They were in a hotel. They were at the Sunset Marquis Hotel, and it spilled out into the street. It was a bar fight, and Brian Hickerson is fighting with these guys. Look, he's got one shoe on. He's a sad and problematic guy. His LinkedIn will tell you he's a real estate agent, and he came to be an actor. It never worked out, but he found Hayden Panettiere. And, I just, certain relationships bring out the worst in each other, and yet they're an addiction unto themselves. And I think that is pretty clear that that's the case between the two. It's really sad. Talk about him a little bit more, you guys, but Hayden's been doing, she was a child actress. You hear these stories of a child actress. It just doesn't, there's a lot of pressure. You're trying to please people from a very early age. She was adorable as a little kid. She started, at 11 months old, her mom had her in commercials, and she had a terrible falling out with her mother. Wrote about her in her book, which came out in the spring. But she and her mother were very much at odds. But at 11 months old, she was, commercial actress. And then she went into some, early movies, and she was in the soap operas and Guiding Light and One Day, One Life to Live and all these different shows. But she was adorable. And there's a lot of pressure on a kid like that. Child actors have to be really carefully cared for. Here she is on Rosie O'Donnell back when she's like, I don't know, 11 or 12 or something. She's so cute. But
baby, I'm so into you. You got that something, what can I do? Baby, you spin me around. Oh, the earth is moving, but I can't feel the ground.
Let's get that going here.
Every time you look at me, my heart is jumping. Tell me, what can I do? You drive me crazy. I just can't sleep. I'm so excited. I'm in too deep. Oh, crazy, but it feels alright. Baby, thinking of you keeps me up all night.
See that? And the crowd goes crazy, and there she is. And it's like, there's your little dopamine hit from a very early age. And that's what, became her life. And at that age, that's just, that's a lot. We were going to have Hayden Panettiere on hot mics. Alex Mandel, who, works with us back in the Howie Mandel studios. Alex, Howie's son, who runs our production and has for a while, he's friends with her. And he texted a few months ago to Hayden and said, hey, working with Billy Bush, we'd love to have you on. And she responded, thanks, Alex. I love Billy and always happy to help those who have been there for me. And he's always been very supportive. I liked Hayden Panettiere a lot. Saw her a few years ago out at the Golden Bull, which is a bar and a restaurant that I'm actually an investor in. And it's in Santa Monica, and it's awesome. It's a great place. And Hayden was out. She was under control. She was not falling down drunk or anything like that. She was lovely. We talked for a while. And she is a very sweet person. There's those who maybe have, terrible addiction issues and they become, angry, violent, bad people. I think she wasn't that. She was kind. Here's Kiss Me Kate says, I wonder if pressure from the book drew her back in. That boyfriend was not good for her, toxic. Maybe it's, I think when anything was disruptive in life, her coping mechanism was wine. Remember, after the birth of her child, Kaya, her daughter, she had terrible postpartum depression. She just wasn't feeling anything. She was feeling, she was just numb. One time she was taking her out of a bath and she thought like she had hurt her, but she wasn't like panicked, like, oh my God, my baby. It was nothing like, oh, did I hurt her? And that scared her. And to get through it, she turned to alcohol. And that led right back into her job on Nashville, the TV show on ABC. She said she was just started to drink, and she couldn't she had to have a drink before she got out of bed in order to, so she was a severe alcoholic. She was pouring wine up to the rim. And yeah, she wrote about all of it in her book, which came out in the spring, called This Is Me, A Reckoning. I remember I interviewed her for Extra long before, when the book was just an idea. I was always worried that the book was never going to come out. It was just something she was talking about to try and, stay relevant. There's that pressure to stay relevant in the business, in her career. And I was like, oh, I hope this comes to fruition. And it did, which was great. And she really shared a lot. But when it was in its infancy, when its writing stage, she came over to Extra when I was the host.
Behind you, Hayden, please. The meteoric highs of Hollywood fame, the devastating lows of life as a tabloid target. She's seen it all, more up close than anyone probably should. You've been through a lot of stuff in life. You've shared some of it.
And I'm going to share more.
Because of the book?
Yeah.
What makes you want to share all the bumps and bruises?
Pretty much. I mean, it's been a cathartic experience up until now, but I'm only about chapter 4.
No holding back. A new piece.
I just can't. I have to take that down because my extra TV voice is driving me crazy. But she seemed a little distant in that interview, right? Maybe a little slurry. You can hear her words, and I was concerned after she left, and I didn't say anything, but I didn't know her that well, but I gave her a long hug, and God, she was just a nice person. But a lot of just a lot of struggle. That bar fight video in 2022 is it's really her career. It's very hard to recover the career after that. She, people see somebody out of control. Like, there's a lot of competition. Actresses her age, people aren't, going to go hire Hayden Panettiere after seeing her rolling around drunk as a skunk, trying to pull her boyfriend off of strangers who allegedly he spat on them inside the Sunset Marquee bar. And ever since then, the book and the struggles. And the next year she lost her brother. As you know, Jansen was her brother. He died in 2023 at 28 years old. He had an enlarged heart, but that absolutely destroyed her. You know, and I just think from the beginning, she had so many factors that just add to a traumatic childbirth, the postpartum depression that came after, the struggles with addiction, the devastating decision, imagine this, to permit, to sign the papers to allow her husband at the time, Wladimir Klitschko, to have full custody of their daughter, Kaya. Imagine that decision. It's like, I don't care what you say. And she would meet in interviews forever. She would say, oh, but we have such a close connection and I had to do it, but we're really special together. And she would like give a detail about her daughter. It's sort of like, remember, it kind of like how Brittany would speak about her kids, and you know that the connection, she's selling something. And then, boy, imagine how triggering that is, right? You're a woman, and, you know, to be a mother is like the most spiritual, greatest blessing, and you're unable to do it. That requires some sort of way to cope. And for her, it was substances. And it was just so sad. She discussed all of this with Jay Shetty. Jay Shetty did a podcast interview with her recently when the book came out, and it's worth a listen.
And to live in a world where he doesn't exist.
You sadly lost your brother 3 years ago, and him in the book as the heartbreak of my life.
It's so sad. Yeah, she was very close to her brother, and that every majorly traumatic thing that happens is, you know, how do you cope with that? And it's just, for her, the trigger was alcohol. You know, she had the falling out with her mom. Her mom, when the book came out, was like, this is, you know, trashed, Hayden. Imagine that, being trashed by your mom. Of course, she was the manager for a long time, as you hear about, and they had a tremendous, just a terrible falling out. But the postpartum depression, we're talking about this with Lindsey Clancy now. It is a, you know, front page story in women's health. It's a major national topic, and I don't, you know, and we'll get into that later on. I'm gonna take a small break after this, and we're gonna come back and we're gonna stream that trial because I'm just riveted by it. But women's health is on the front page, and Hayden suffered terribly. Her OBGYN told her that, you know, her baby's arms and legs didn't appear to be growing as quickly as the rest of her body when she was pregnant. Later, she found out the limbs were fine, but now they were, you know, worried about the size of her head. She was told that her daughter Kaya had microcephaly and could potentially, you know, be cognitively impaired for her life. When she was giving birth to Kaya, doctors had to call a code crimson, and she underwent a 3-hour surgery after her blood would not clot during the C-section. And later on, she found out that her uterus had become infected. And after the birth of Kaya was complete numbness. Couldn't feel a connection to that beautiful little girl. So she started drinking. Like we said, her drinking, you know, increased. She was drinking at work, getting out of bed, couldn't get out of bed to drink. Later, she switched to vodka from wine because she was told that you can't smell vodka on somebody. I don't know where that myth began. Yes, you can. She went to treatment voluntarily when her daughter Kaya was 4 months old. And then Wladimir Klitschko got very scared every time she went to visit her mom. And so he had custody papers delivered to her, and in 2018, and she signed it when Kaya was just like 4 years old. And I remember Hayden said, I remember every second of that day, every effing second. No mother could forget a single thing about the day she signed her child away. Not being under the same roof with her every day has been the most gut-wrenching experience of my life, and it's hard to describe the layers of emotion, including sadness, resentment, and anger. I've felt because of it. There's no way to feel whole as a mom who cannot meet her core obligation. That's probably the most insightful thing she says. There's no way to feel whole as a mom who cannot meet her core obligation. That is deeply sad. It's different for men and women. You women tell me, but we cut an umbilical cord because of the connection to the mother. It's just, and if you can't do it, I mean, imagine the hopelessness and the sadness and the pain that needs to be masked, needs to be treated in some way. It's just so sad. She goes on to say, I grieve that I'm not the mother I thought I'd be, and definitely not the mother I want to be. And then there's the hopelessness of knowing this, speaking about it, and not being able to turn it around. You know it. You're saying it. I'm disconnected from my child. It's painful. It's awful. I don't know. But then you say, well, why not put down the alcohol and get on a plane and fly over to Europe, where Kaya lives with her father, Vlad. By the way, Kaya speaks 5 languages. She plays golf. She plays piano. This guy has done an amazing job raising their daughter. But imagine knowing all of this and having it eat you from the inside out, and you can't put down the bottle and get on a plane and just say, I'm back. I'm going to be here every day for the rest of your life. She can't do it. She wants to do it. She talks about it, but she can't do it. They just communicate on FaceTime every once in a while. She says, I miss Kaya so much, my heart aches. I miss her so much. Then go see her and be her mother, but she can't. She says, I know how blessed I am to be her mom. She's the greatest gift of my life, with all the best parts of her father and me. It's, oh God, here's L. Being selfless is a hard thing to do. She did the right thing, allowing Vlad to raise their daughter. Oh, she absolutely did. She had the money. She had the resources at the time to fight. She could have put up a custody fight, but she didn't. She at least loved her daughter in that way, to get out of the way. Here's a question from Beck. Why was she in Greenville, South Carolina? Brian Hickerson is from South Carolina. He did go to the University of South Carolina. They flew together on Saturday to South Carolina. So I don't know if they were staying with a friend at this place called the Judson Mill Lofts, but that's where the row was, the commotion was that witness spoke about before. And emergency medical services were called to those lofts. I don't know if it was Brian's apartment. But look, we're more and more will come out. Harry is keeping an eye on anything that breaks, any news that comes out. You guys do the same. But he was clearly there, and he brought relief. He brought extra pain for her, but some type of relief. And I think together they're It wasn't going to end well. Good morning, Lori. Yes, this is so heartbreaking, Lori, in the comments section. Boy, this reminds me of the announcement of Brittany Murphy's death. Way too young, yeah. No kidding. And then Michelle Trachtenberg, and it's just been, but Brittany Murphy, oh God, that's right. She was so sweet. Nicolette says, I assume Brian Hickerson, clearly heavy on drugs. I heard him talk, allegedly. Who knows if he had gotten himself cleaned up, but he certainly has a terrible addiction problem himself. Here's a beautiful comment from Cat. Walking away from your child, knowing you cannot fully be a present parent, must be incredibly difficult. If more people had the self-awareness, there would probably be a lot less adults with trauma. Yeah. Oh my God. No kidding. Just so sad. I reached out to Alex, who is, I said, how did you know her so well? We met when we were 21 on a whale watching outing for a foundation called the Whale Man, which her and I both supported. Went to other events for it. When she would invite me, we became friends. I got closer to her brother as well and helped him get into the private. We stayed friendly throughout the years. Yeah. 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 I think we're going to find out, guys, this Brian Hickerson, obviously he was there, but he was the unhealthy addiction for her. And she, that relationship, in my opinion, it is not a report, but in my opinion, is what expedited her pathway to an early death. The toxic nature of that relationship is too much, and I think many of her friends warned her about being in that relationship, but she couldn't say no. And I think she maybe knew that it would bring her demise. Harry,
what's interesting is police are saying that there is nothing suspicious. It appears that from the initial blush, according to Variety and a couple of other sources, that it was, nothing suspicious going on there. That just kind of popped up, and I think that's strange. She's
the whole thing is suspicious. They can say nothing suspicious, and maybe there's no,
She would have turned 37 on Friday, by the way.
Friday?
Yeah.
So maybe she just gave out. But cardiac arrest, maybe here's Jackie says the same thing. Her human body gave out.
Mental health struggles are real. I mean, you're watching it. You've done so much work. The work you've done on Clancy, I can't wait for you to share that. But what has happened to her runs in parallel in a lot of ways to what happened with Peyton. Of course, you got psychosis and postpartum depression, but man, it's awful.
Look at Mel. Here's Mel makes a comment here. I gave my baby away for adoption when I was very young. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. We have reconnected now, but I have to tell you, it changes your life forever. Depression has never ended. Mel, my heart goes out to you. That has to be very, very difficult. We love you, girl. Here's Deborah. Joy, I know so many people write such negative things elsewhere. It makes my heart happy to see such positivity and emotion. Elle says your heart can break and the body can respond to trauma in a very physical way. I think that's a good comment. That's right. Her brother did die from a heart condition, so she possibly had the same issue. where her heart just wore out because of addiction. That's interesting. We'll find out as we wait for the autopsy. But boy, depression kills. Her heart was broken, says Pamela. Yeah, I think that might be right. There's an underlying heart condition. She said she felt so close to her brother in life, like nobody closer. Maybe that is the case. Maybe she shared that with him and didn't know. Jesus, it's all just too much. But boy, she was a really, really nice kid. Look at that smile. She was great, deeply talented, a sweet, sweet girl. God, it's amazing. So much going for her, right? She was talented. She popped off the screen, and Heroes made her a giant star. And then her, leading to Nashville, which was a really good show. And, she was red hot. But boy, probably the wrong career for someone who grew up like that as a child actress. It's just not a normal life from the beginning. I've texted Brian Hickerson. I've texted her father, whom I've spoken to before. I feel really badly. Let me see this. Yeah, that's the dispatch audio. People are calling it 911, but this is the call that came in, an APB here.
Care 1 is in Spears for cardiac arrest, Justin Millwall.
Yeah, cardiac arrest.
Overdose, CPR is in progress.
Overdose, CPR in progress. Okay, so yeah, overdose on what? People don't usually say that about alcohol, right? Drinking yourself to death. Immediately, you fear fentanyl or one of these things that just stops the heart. Which would maybe be in cocaine or something. We're going to find out. Oh, God. Pam says, look at Anna Nicole Smith. She just couldn't live without her son. She just gave birth to her daughter, and then she died. Tragic. Yeah. She had been, here's Cat says, is it painkillers? Well, yeah, who knows? But she had been suffering from a bad back recently, which may have just been, I need these painkillers, because I got the bad back. I used to play golf with a guy who loved Vicodin, and he would say, ooh, back is tweaked. I better just take like a half a Vic just to make sure that, and I'd be like, dude, you're looking for any reason to justify the drugs you want to take. Totally devastating. Yeah. Billy, it's crack. I don't know, Nicolette. I don't think so. Maybe not. I don't know. Coca Rose, my mother suffered from depression and was an alcoholic. I suffer depression, but do not drink. It does do so much trauma to the physical body. It's a depressant. It's nothing worse, but it does tell you a lie consistently that you believe, and that is that it will make you feel better, and temporarily it does. Here's Karen. I didn't sleep last night. Saw your IG post early this morning. Yeah. All right. Comment from Mochi. My grandmother didn't want to live anymore. My grandfather didn't want to live anymore after my grandmother passed away. He was depressed and died 2 years after she parted. They were in their 40s. Well, that's 40s. Oh my God. That is way too young, but Well, maybe that's just true love. God bless her daughter, family, and those close fans as well. May she rest in eternal peace. God, think of all the people that worked with Hayden Panettiere. That's a lot of people. It must have been very hard to watch her in these last few years as she could not get a hold of her. She's the last person you'd expect. She was so sharp. I think it's this, honestly, we're going to find this relationship that she was in on this toxic, can't quit you relationship with Brian Hickerson. I think he was bad news. Bad news. I know a girl who used to date him, other than Hayden, a different woman, and she said deeply toxic, like had to get away. I don't want to trash the guy, but you know, he's a human being, but a dark side that had sucked her into the vortex. Hollywood destroys these young people. Such a beautiful young lady. Yep, that's right, Marska. Moshi says, I thought they broke up a while back. Yeah, but that's it. On again, off again. A totally toxic relationship. Kept going back to each other. Very, very sad. You know, look, you want to see the nature of it? It's, you know, look at that outside the Sunset Marquee. There she is. Look at him just, I mean, just drunk and violent and angry and coming apart, and her just maybe I riff here, but maybe he was so much worse that she felt like I can save him. It made her feel less of a mess because of this guy. So she was looking out for him, caring for him.
I didn't want to roll the tape, but in that tape, in that fight video, which is awful, she's yelling at him, jail.
Well,
As
he
had the restraining order.
He was on probation at the time, and a restraining order was because of a domestic violence incident between the two of them. And she's like, remember, if you come close to, you know, any type of violence, domestic violence, you are going to jail. You're on probation. He was just drunk and angry and on the attack. But yeah. Boy, she couldn't care for her daughter. She couldn't be nurturing in that way. And she had this guy. And maybe, like I said, he was necessary for her to feel like she could care for and look out for someone who needed her. And maybe that's it. Jeez. Look at the eyes on him. That picture just makes you realize, oof, she's with the wrong person. Then you look at this picture with her daughter, Kaya, and you say, oh, she's with the right person. Here's Kay Doherty, says, everyone wants to be saved. We just pretend that we don't. Amber, she was so talented, so beautiful. I'm so sad hearing this news. It sounds like she had some very toxic relationships. Yeah. Jackie, that boyfriend's got the narcissist smile. Yeah, Jackie, she became very, very hard on herself, which pushes your ego to cause you to numb out. Oh, yeah. I mean, just look at the comments about what she, you know, talking about her daughter. I grieve I'm not the mother I thought I'd be, and not the mother I want to be. She could say it. She could verbalize it, and yet she could do nothing about it. She couldn't go fix it. She was totally trapped and knew it. Could not get out. That's scary. That's really scary. She felt nothing after the birth of her child. There was an incident in the bath, like I said, and she thought her daughter was in terrible danger, and she felt nothing. I remember taking my daughter Lily out of the bath when she was little, and I don't know, slipped out or something, and she hit her head and had this massive, massive egg on her head. I panicked, scooped her up myself, and drove like a bat out of hell to the hospital. If this is a contusion or some type of hematoma or something, that I got to get there. I'm not going to wait for these. And I remember my ex-wife now, but Sydney was she was pretty chill. She was like, she's okay. This happens. And I'm like, no, she's not okay. Jesus. Ah! And I'm driving like a maniac. And sure enough, the doctor was like, yeah, it's pretty bad, but she's okay. And Sydney's looking at me like, you, my God. But, she didn't blame me. She was just like, okay, if you want to be safe, I get you. Her intuition probably a little bit. Unfortunately, you can't save someone without putting a life jacket on yourself. Neither one of these two were willing to put a life jacket on. They just said, let's drown together. I mean, Karen, I was addicted to that show, Nashville, and ran out to buy the soundtrack when I found out they did their own singing. Now I'm so sad to hear it was torture for her. Yeah, she had a beautiful, beautiful voice as well. You're just, Hayden Panettiere, 36 years old, and a really sweet, sweet girl. Gone way too soon. Oh, just totally tragic. So our heart breaks for Hayden. Well, we have a whole episode that I'm going to put up later on today about Lindsey Clancy. As we're talking about postpartum, Lindsey Clancy, my heart is broken for that woman. I am not on the side of she did something terrible and she needs to go to jail and she needs to suffer. I am not on that side. And if you are, okay, that's your opinion. But I think this woman was tremendously let down, mostly by her husband. I'm not accusing him of doing it. There's a conspiracy group out there that says he did it and convinced her to take the fall for it. I don't think so, based upon the fact that she wrote about it in her own civil suit. She takes ownership of it, so you have to take her at her word. That episode going up later on today, but again, heartbroken for Hayden Panettiere, 36 years old, and as the information comes out, we'll report with social media and right here on Hot Mics. So that's it for the stream. Probably going to come back later this afternoon and stream a little bit of Lindsey Clancy, because that's just deeply a gripping story. And it really is going to say a lot about where we're going as a country. And I think it's one of those bellwether moments, right? What do we do here? And I think for the sake of women's health and for the sake of, mothers who are struggling, her struggle needs to be front and center, not her as an evil criminal. I believe in the justice system, I do. But what happened to her, the negligence of this medical community, and I believe the people closest to her, she's the victim. And anyway, that'll go up later on. Thanks for being with us on this one. Hayden Panettiere, we loved you. Thank you for your gifts. And we will find out more. All right. Please hit subscribe if you haven't yet, and join the Hot Mics community. Thank you, guys. Have a good day.
Me doing me, right?
That's insane. Belly bash. Another compliment. There she is.